The whole point of MCC was I always liked imagining it like the Smash Bros of Minecraft. And I enjoyed that because it was like bringing in these people who didn't normally interact together. But obviously that then over time, you get some creators who don't want to expand outside their circle. So then when they sign up, they're like, oh, I'll only play with people I know. And then you have audiences who maybe love one creator but hate another one. But then if they end up putting together, it causes like fights between fandoms of like, wow, why is this person here?
And then also announce it to the public and deal with the public's view on these things. What's that whole experience like?
Making the teams has only gotten weirder.
MC Championship, one of the biggest events in gaming, being the massive Minecraft event every month.
Yeah.
How did that start?
So it was a weird story where it was June of 2019 and I was doing like Twitch's like front page Pride Month thing. So like I had like inflated views because it was on front page. And then Keemstar, of all people, not a great person, but came into my chat and was like, do you want to play my Minecraft tournament? And I was like, huh? I was like, sure. He's like, okay, if you kill 5 creepers in 10 minutes, because he didn't know anything about Minecraft. I was like, I don't know if this was meant to be a hard challenge. He's like, you can be in it. And I was like, okay. And then he just left and then came back like 10 minutes later. I was like, did you do it? And we were like, yes. And he's like, okay, you're in. And I was like, cool. So that was how I got into Minecraft Mondays, which was an awful event. I remember we used to, at the end of every event, he made us post our stats from the stream into the Discord or into the Twitch DM or Twitter DM so that if you didn't hit the minimum view count, he kicked you out. So everyone, it was also just like putting your view stats in and around everyone else was really weird. But that was how that happened, and basically did MC Mondays for a while and was like, he's not a nice person and these events are kind of rubbish. But me and my friend Tiff, who was also in it, were kind of talking. We were like, I like the whole like bringing 40 people together and like playing an event together in the same night, like, but just not with him. So we were like, maybe we could try and figure out how to do that ourselves. Like we have the connection. So I then sort of was like, okay, I'll ask about, I know this person, Noxite, who runs Nox Crew that I'd met earlier that summer. I was like, I'll ask him if he knows anyone. Because I knew they did Bedrock maps at the time, but they weren't doing like game show or anything at this point. So I was like, hey, do you know anyone we're wanting like do this event kind of thing? And Stefan was instantly just like, we're doing it. You're not allowed to go anywhere else. No, it's going to do this thing. And I was like, okay. And then that was probably in about August, September. And then in November, we ran the first MCC. So my job is to make sure people show up and his job is to make sure the games exist.
Well, the games that they play, obviously you said about the game show being...
Or just repurposed game show games.
And so I was with the Nox Crew, and this was one of the first things we spoke about when we first met. We were playing Among Us, and when we were both dead, I was like, hey Scott, I don't know if you know this, but I used to be a builder in the Nox Crew. My job was to make the maps as functionally fun as possible in the game show. I wasn't that artistic with my design, but I was very good with the feel and how it played out and everything. And so I used to be involved in, I think it was around the 6th game show. I think it was the one where we had Captain Sparkles. Yeah. That was around the time where that was my first one. And then after that, we did the whole like game show for the community and everything like that. So we had an inbuilt MCC ready to go. Yeah. So when you went to Noxide, did you think that he was going to repurpose the game show at the time?
Honestly, like, it's funny because Nox Crew Game Show was a little bit before my time. So I didn't remember that the Nox Crew Game Show existed before I went to Stefan. The reason I even went to Stefan was I'd met him that summer at E3 with my friend Shelby. We ended up all three of us going to lunch and we got on very well. And I was like, you do Minecraft stuff. Like maybe you know a team that do events. Like that was kind of my reasoning for going to Stefan. I'd forgot that they did the Nox Crew Game Show completely. And obviously it then just worked out. I think they'd been, obviously Nox Crew Game Show is what they used to do. And then they'd been doing Bedrock for so long. And I think they were kind of missing that passion project. So when MCC came, it was like, wait a minute, this is us going back to our roots. Let's do it.
Yeah. And the thing about it as well is after game show, we tried repurposing it in so many different ways. I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about this because at the time we weren't even a business, like we were doing it as a passion project. We're doing it for fun. Now they're a business where they've got NDAs and stuff. But we had ideas like doing a Takeshi's Castle style thing. Yep. We would get 100 members of the community to all enter and then see if they could beat the Nox Crew Game Show kind of thing and like repurposing maps in that. And then, the game show maps that have now been repurposed into MCC, some of those were changed quite a bit. Some of them barely changed at all. I mean, the Decision Dome, that's been part of the Knox Crew game show since the beginning of
it's
the
like
first
a lot
ever
of the
show.
hole in the wall was basically just a lot of it was taking the old games and then updated for what you can do with Minecraft now, but also then just to fit a 40-player like stream environment kind of thing. It was always a fun or a learning process for us when we first started, where the team would come up with like these really cool game design ideas and they'd be really happy with it. And then I'd have to come in and be like, that's really cool. Doesn't work when you're live though. Like the thing is, like example, it used to be Sands of Time, which I know was a repurposed old game where you'd like stopped a nuclear reactor going off or something. That was it.
The original Sands of Time was similar to the current one, but it wasn't randomly generated. Yeah. And then they did a sequel to it, which was Meltdown, which was the generator one.
I remember the Meltdown was sort of what they were drawing inspo from when we were doing the Sands of Time for MCC, because I remember watching the trailers and that in the meetings. But I remember at the time, like Isaac, the game like design lead, was then like, people don't need to stand in the middle room for like the sand timer, like it's not the most efficient way to do it. And I had to be like, it might not be, but streamers are not going to risk being locked in a dungeon for 10 minutes while they're live, so they're always going to leave someone in the room. So we need to think of things for people to do in the room. Like that was sort of the learning curve. I think we've hit a good spot now where like my involvement sort of took a back step after like MCC 14 because people got annoyed or felt it was unfair with how much like knowledge I had. So my involvement of understanding the games is sort of like, I give the feedback or the idea of how it's going to go, or I'm like, this is how it should work, or this is an idea that I had. And then I don't know anything about it until I get the update video script like 2 days before we posted it. And I'm like, okay, so this is what we've actually done. Like it's very pulled back from that, but it was, I think we got to a good spot where the team started to understand, like they can now kind of have more fun with MCC Island, like the public server, of like, okay, Island is where we can have more RNG and fun stuff because it's not a tournament. And then for the stream event, it kind of has to be a bit more like streamlined in certain places for streaming. So
yeah, it's crazy when you look back at like the Knox crew as a whole and what they had there ready to go, and then how you guys were able to come in at the right time and be like, this is what we want to do, create a centerpiece for all of these content creators to work together. And it almost has a similar effect of what Among Us had, of that cross-pollination of communities where you're getting people who've never interacted with each other before who are getting a chance to do that through the different teams. What's it like for you finding, because you put the teams together, you have to talk with YouTubers, which is not the easiest thing to do in the world. They're quite hard to get a hold of sometimes. Yeah. And you have to build these teams out and then also announce it to the public and deal with the public's view on these things. What's that whole experience like?
It's changed a lot over time. I remember the first few MCCs back in the day, like trying to get 40 people to show up for another Minecraft tournament. Like back into 2019, there was Minecraft tournaments out the wazoo. Like there was all over the place. There was Minecraft Bundies. Then to compete with them, Minecraft Saturdays started. Because the very first MCC was actually on a Sunday because we didn't want to fight MC Saturdays for like their players. So we're like, we'll just do it the Sunday. And then Minecraft Saturdays ended. So then when it came to the next year, we were like, okay, we take the Saturdays back. But it used to be me like struggling to get people to show up. I had to end up reaching out to like my Twitch manager. I remember right at the start being like, I need help. Like, do you have anyone? So then they went and got a bunch of people. And then I would always have, like, without a doubt, there'd be like 2 to 4 people would drop out like the day of the event. So I was like, I needed 40 people and then I needed backups. And it's funny because there's a lot of people who are now like MCC regulars, like Sylvie, who only was in MCC because someone dropped out on the day of the event and I needed 2 spots and I invited Krinios, who was one of her backups, and then asked if he had a friend. And he was like, oh, I can bring my friend Sylvie. I was like, great, bring them in, we're going. Like, and that was how like a couple of people got into the event, was back then I needed it. Whereas now I have people who will be on the wait list for like a year and a half because I just don't have the space to let them in. Because it's just got more popular and people aren't really dropping out. So it used to be my sign up form maybe had like 40 people, 44, and now it's like 80 people sign up and I'm like, oh no, I need to bench half of you. God, oh, this will be fun. I think as it's also got more popular and it's more sought after, it's been people are more responsive to me. I know YouTubers are normally notoriously bad at responding to things, but I think with the way MCC is and how passionate people are and how much they want to play, when they see a DM from me pop up, they tend to be pretty quick on responses, which is nice now. I think people have like found a nice level of respect, which I appreciate because they appreciate the time I put into it. But yeah, making the teams has only gotten weirder. I used to, like, the whole point of MCC was to, I always liked imagining it like the Smash Bros of Minecraft, where you bring in like some Hermitcraft people and some Empires and some Dream SMP, and you sort of bring them and mesh them into a team that the audience are like, I never would have seen Green with Wilbur Suit. Like, what? This is a weird combo. And I enjoyed that because it was like bringing in these people who didn't normally interact together. But obviously that then over time, you get some creators who don't want to expand outside their circle. So then when they sign up, like, oh, I'll only play with people I know. And then you have audiences who maybe love one creator but hate another one. But then if they end up putting together, it causes like fights between fandoms of like, wow, why is this person here? So it's also for a while, the people that would be mad at stuff like that thought I just did everything. Like, I think they thought I ran the show myself, so I just get blamed for game decisions, or like, I was like, I pick who plays. That's where I check out. Like, I have to make sure people show up, and I have to deal with the like talking to the creators and reaching out. But outside of that, that's my jurisdiction. Like, blame Noxite, go for one of them. But yeah, it's been like, I think we've gotten to a lot better place where I also don't care anymore about like internet opinions. I posted the teams into the Discord for the new MCC that's coming up, and I had like 5 different people like text or message me like, teams are really good, like this, I'm so excited. And I was like, that's all I need. I was like, as long as the players are happy, that's fine. Like, I want my players to be happy so they will make entertaining content, and that's the most important part for MCC. So
yeah, we'll get onto the opinions of the internet a bit later on, but I want to rewind and go back to early Scott and how